Howdy folks. Today I want to talk about the Leatherman ARC. For me, this has been a long time coming. I bought my Leatherman free P4 the first day it was available on Leatherman.com. Mine is so early that it doesn't have a serial number inside. I've of course modified mine a bunch and it's sitting here in my holster. I'll talk about that again later. And then I also was lucky enough to get the Leatherman Garage number 5. And then on the first day it was available on Leatherman.com, I got my Leatherman ARC. Missed out on the REI early release. I kind of wish I could have gotten in on that. Maybe I would have had my holster ready and some of the other accessories that I plan on making for the ARC ready for you guys right now. Just an update on that. I will be 3D modeling the Leatherman ARC to great detail today. Updating my holster, which by the way, the Garage number 5 holster does fit the ARC as is, just a little bit looser around the blade. And it actually fits into the free P4 holster if I don't have the pocket clip on here. It just has a little bit of a thing where the thumb tab kind of catches on this guy and moves past it. But again, hopefully by the end of the week, I will have a version of the holster perfected for the ARC. But we're going to talk about the ARC in technical terms and the kind of the design of it, the evolution of it. I have printouts from the Leatherman AMA, Ask Me Anything on Reddit, that the engineers, design engineers who were specifically working on the ARC did, and I have some of my kind of favorite questions answered in there, and we'll go over those things. So first of all, if you're not familiar with the ARC and you're watching this video, it's got a magnetic closure that allows this to basically open one-handed. I can't do it completely like a switchblade, but in either case, I really like it. Mine has very nice movement on the pliers, so the spring load effect that was on the Garage number 5, I kind of wanted on the ARC, and I told myself I was going to swap the pliers from my Garage number 5 into the ARC. However, it's been pretty good. I've already used it quite a bit, and as long as you got just a little bit of gravity helping you, or reality is you can actually just work it like this, the spring loaded pliers is not as big of a deal as I was expecting it to be. So we have the black finish on the outside here. Leatherman via the AMA has said that the black finish on the scales is PVD, that's physical vapor deposition, and then the coating on the blade is DLC, diamond light coating. The diamond light coating is actually applied via physical vapor deposition. However, this is going to be a harder, maybe thicker coating than what's on the black scales. However, they match very well. They look great. I haven't had any issues yet. I like the look of this compared to the Garage number 5. I'm not sure. I'm not a huge fan of the brown. And then also the Cerakote, while tough, has already scratched in plenty of places. I don't mind my tools getting scratched up. If I pull out my free P4, I've used this plenty. It's not too scratched up. But if you get into like the pliers, you can see that I've used this quite a bit and abused it. I've used the hammer surface quite a bit. No major issues there. So we'll have the same here. Eventually I'll ding that up plenty. Looks like I've already used it a little bit. And then the other thing that's a difference between the Garage number 5 and the free P4 is the extra set of holes here. Leatherman did that, I believe, for 2 reasons. One, you can move the pocket clip to either side. Some people prefer, if you're going to use this left-handed, to have basically the pocket clip deployed in a different way. I believe it's also a cost-saving measure because this scale and this scale, or actually, sorry, this scale and this scale, the one with the pocket clip, are 100% identical components. So that means that if they remove those holes like they did on the free P4, technically you're manufacturing another component, another unique component with a different operation. So it's probably a cost savings measure to just simply have the exact same components over and over. Same thing with this Leatherman ARC scale is the same as this Leatherman ARC scale. Kind of to confirm that, they actually have the built with free technology kind of written on both of those parts. The one with the pocket clip. Now, as far as the Magnacut blade, I'm really quite happy with it. The version on my garage number 5, I have abused. I mean, I literally have scraped things with it. I've cut fiberglass. That's what's kind of left on here, is actually scraping the edge of a PCB. I've scraped anodized aluminum, as far as like almost scraping it like this to expose some raw metal, and it's held up very well. I have sharpened it once before, and it resharpens really, really well. I'm quite happy with the blade material. It is held up longer than the 420 steel that was on my free P4. The thumb tab, one thing of note is that it's actually smaller than the garage number 5. I actually might swap those just because I think the silver finish on the black blade might look kind of cool. I actually prefer the one on the garage number 5 against my thumb a little bit better. I think they made it slightly smaller just simply because the blade does not protrude out as far on the ARC as it does on the garage number 5. So they had to fit this screw where, you know, between the where the blade profile is here and here, and so maybe they just shrunk down the size a little bit. Also, talking about the rest of the implements, we have the can opener. During the Reddit AMA, they talk about the can opener, that basically a lot of customers still want it, still use it. I'm assuming that's with their different research groups that they have. On my garage number 5, I took the ruler out of my free P4. Actually, maybe even actually it might have been out of my P2. In either case, I took the ruler because I actually wanted this wire stripper back. One of the things that I like about the garage, or about the ARC, is that they did put the wire stripper onto the awl. And they actually are calling this a scraper, not necessarily an awl, because it's got a flat edge, but it comes to a point. I know quite a few people are very happy with this because you can kind of puncture and you can use this as a package opener. I'm very happy with this. It's a little bit blunter and shorter than the one on the garage number 5, which is the same as the one in the free P4. I'm assuming that's just for strength of the fact that if you're going to use this as a scraper, you don't break off the end. They specifically say in the AMA the reason they took out the thread hole is that, one, nobody actually uses this for stitching up leather or anything like that, and then the other is that it reduces the strength. I'm liking this scraper. I've already used it as a package opener quite a bit. Now the wire stripper is really only useful on like basically solid core wiring you get on a house. It fits perfectly for that, which I believe is 16 gauge. I've used it for some thinner wires, but you kind of got to get it held in there just right and pull it just right. You can almost strip it, a thin wire though, straight against the blade just as easy. All right, now let's talk about the bit opener, the bit exchanger. So between the garage number 5 and the ARC, I believe these are the same. It looks like it's a little more polished on the ARC. And then compared to my design, which has been available for years, and if you have a free P4, you can add this to your free P4. Mine is thicker and takes up basically this entire side of the tool set. That's due to basically the thickness limitations of 3D printed steel. But mine has some extra features, such as the ability to run the bit sideways and a 4mm bit, along with a 4mm bit hole here. I think that they could have run like a little 4mm sideways bit, but of course, since Leatherman doesn't sell 4mm bits, it's perfectly understandable why they didn't include that. I should say that there is a slight design change between the garage number 5 and ARC, and it's where the spring sits right here. So you can see on the garage number 5 that this spring kind of comes up and over, where on the ARC it's much more integrated and kind of flat in. I have found that the tightness of the bit as far as moving sideways on the ARC is better than when when I open up my garage 5. I've modified my version of the Garage 5, which I show in another video, which is basically just bending this harder over in order to get a tighter fit. So I'm very happy with the bit changer. It's got enough strength that the bits don't fall out on their own. They have a little stop here that prevents the bit from falling out while you're using the hammer surface. Do be aware that I have had, at least on my Garage number 5, granted I haven't tried it on the ARC yet, on my Garage number 5 I've had the Microbit fall out while using the hammer surface because there's nothing retaining it other than its little arm back here. There's no stop for it inside. On the ARC, they have a slightly different design. So again, I'll compare this to Garage number 5. And I believe this is the same design. The Garage number 5 design is the same as on the Leatherman Mr. Crunch. And so this is a single piece with milling to create that spring, and they actually thin out the spring. And it also is retained on one side like of this hex cutout. Specifically, their AMA talked about the fact that they went and made this more like the Leatherman Wave with a separate discrete spring. It's fully retained as far as the bit on both sides. I found that it's actually easier to remove this than on the Garage number 5. The Garage number 5 has a little bit of an issue getting past that point, where this has a much more gentle ramp. And I think if you ever had any issues with this coming out while using the hammer surface, if I can find that hole, it is tiny, you could probably get in there with the pliers or something and squeeze that and tighten that spring up. So it's a little more adjustable design. You can see it's slightly shorter, it's a little more polished finish, and it's actually a little bit thicker. Alright, next tool to talk about is the package opener. Actually, sorry, not the package opener. I called it that because on the Garage number 5, it is very much a package opener. They have a sharpened edge on the Garage number 5, where on this is basically a flathead screwdriver that tapers. There isn't a razor sharp edge here, and then there's a can opener. If we compare that to the Free series, I don't actually have that there because I took it off of mine. So I can't really compare it to the Free series version. They've specifically said in the AMA that they took off the package opener. There's a couple reasons for that. One, if you use this as a can opener and you're holding the bottle, you can accidentally cut yourself. I've actually done that using this sharp edge. I'm going to simulate that with this little paint bottle, but if you're doing this and you're holding onto the bottle, you can, cut like that. So I think they maybe have done that for safety reasons. The other reality is the scraper works very well as a package opener, so does the knife. You got that better, more durable steel, so why not just go ahead and use the knife. They made this really nice and thick. If you get into having to untorque flathead screws, then obviously you want that to be nice and strong. And then the scissors. Now this is one thing where they have not changed the scissors at all through any generation of the Free series. They are all exactly the same. Maybe that's just due to the fact that getting this amount of tension and working movement is something that they decided they like. I wish that the scissors were a little bit longer. They have the room inside the tool. I'm not sure why they didn't make them that much longer. Probably because if you want to make these longer, you have to make it thicker or you have to make it beefier. And these are already basically flush with the outside of the tool, at least where they end. Next up we're going to talk about is the file. Now, this is the biggest reason why I love the Garage number 5 and the Leatherman ARC. I use this diamond file and the crosscut file all the time. So if I pull out the file on my Garage number 5, you can see it's been scraped up. I've used it plenty. It still works very well. The diamond coating doesn't really come off. On mine, I did put a chisel edge on the end of this. Somebody asked in the AMA, and actually I also asked why not have the chisel edge, but they answered on somebody else's question. And it was the possibility that while you're filing that you gouge something because you miss with the file. So I can understand that. I may put a chisel edge onto the arc. I'm not sure yet. But you will notice that the arc blade is a little bit longer. And it fits fully into the tool. They used every little last bit of the tool to get that to fit in. Next up is the saw. Now the saw is another part that has not changed on any generation of the Free series. It is the same on the Garage number 5. It is the same on the Free P4. I actually don't have it in my Free P4 because I got some other implements in there. I've used the saw on my Garage number 5 and on my Free P4 occasionally for like a little branch or something like that. I'm quite happy with the saw. I don't typically need the serrated blade. I find, just being able to push up against the bottom edge of the blade or being able to pull the blade while you're cutting works well for me. I don't work with rope and things like that, so it's not a big deal. All right, other things to talk about is what, of course, comes in the box with the ARC. So the ARC comes with a partial bit kit where one bit is missing and the small Microbit Driver is missing. I'm not sure why the one bit is missing. I went ahead and ordered a full bit kit. So these are a separate purchase. This is what comes with the ARC, and this is the Leatherman bit kit. And to me, it's kind of funny because the one bit that is missing is the Torx T8/T6. And the funny part is, that's the size of bit you need a Torx T6 to move the pocket clip, and you need a Torx T8 if you want to mess with any of the tightness of the scales. So it's like the one bit you need to service your own tool is missing. My guess is that these have been out of stock for, they go in and out of stock, but they're basically been very hard to find for a very long time. It looks like they boosted production for the ARC. And that Torx T8, T6 is, of course, the hardest bit to manufacture, and so maybe they just had some fallout, didn't want to include a subpar bit or something with the ARC. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. I recommend, when you do order your ARC, to go ahead and get yourself a full bit kit, just so that you have an extra spare Microbit Driver. And also, bits are consumables. Something people quite often do is just overrun their bits. I'm overrunning my Garage number 5 bit a little bit. It's getting worn out here. I've used it plenty. This still works very well on a PH2 kind of size screw, but the PH1 is getting a little worn out. So I'll swap that out for a replacement at some point. Now I have one, of course, in my ARC. And I haven't used this yet, as you can see. But I've been always very, very happy with the Leatherman bits. I use them constantly, and I've used them for untorquing things that you really would think would actually break the tool, and they've been great. All right, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Also is holsters. So this is the holster that comes with the Leatherman ARC. I believe they just took the Leatherman Surge holster and added it and just used it without any modification, simply because they wanted it to fit the bit kit. In fact, they put the bit kit in the holster so that you know that that's a possibility, I guess. This is really bulky. I mean, even if you want to have like the Ratchet Driver on this, on the side here, I mean, this is just, it ends up being really thick compared to the thickness of the tool. And the other thing is that the belt loop here is low enough that this tool kind of pokes up half an inch compared to my holsters, where this is very basically as low as possible so that the tool does not poke into your side hanging off your belt. But in any case, compare that to, say, the Garage number 5 holster. The Garage number 5 holster is a leather holster and very much a classic Leatherman holster, where it fits in very well. Any of the Free series do, but then of course it doesn't fit the bit kit. It has the similar problem though with the fact that the tool rides up almost an inch above where the rivets are, so that can kind of still poke into your side. And then let's compare that to the Free P4 holster, which is the nylon holster. and has a much more custom fit, but then of course doesn't fit the bit kit. So I think simply because of the bit kit, they decided to use the larger holster. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the Leatherman AMA, and also basically the fact that I kind of predicted this tool to a certain degree a long time ago. This is the Leatherman Free Z1. This is a rendering I made based on my 3D model I have of the Free P4 and my ideal tool set. I actually published this to Reddit on June 18th of 2022, and the first leaks of the ARC came out in May of 2023. So you might see some familiar things here. We got a file. Now I did put a chisel edge on here, but we got a diamond coated file. We have thumb tabs. These happen to be my 3D printed thumb tabs that fit the Free P4. Now I put in the same awl as on the Leatherman Free P4, but I actually did put the wire stripper onto here. It's not really visible in this image, but I'll show it on this video screen here. I did put in a longer flathead that was also combination package opener and bottle opener, so that's very similar to what's on the ARC. Of course, the can opener, the bit driver. I did, of course, put in a 1/4" drive on my version. I still think that they could have done that. And then Leatherman has actually said in the AMA that the ARC has been in development since basically the beginning of the Free series. They've always been wanting to work on a bit driver. And then in mine, I actually had the adjustable pivot. I didn't necessarily imagine it being spring-loaded, but I imagined it being adjustable. And then that turned out to be a feature on the Garage number 5. So the reality is, though, that basically all these tool sets are in the Leatherman ARC for me, other than maybe the adjustable pivot. But like I said, mine is very nice. It works very well. I'm not worried about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about what we found out in the Leatherman AMA. So this is my own question here, and I'll put it on the screen. You said that the ARC is based on feedback from users. Did I help? I love my Garage number 5 and plan on getting the ARC. So they replied, Adam replied back with not the Z1, but we appreciate your thumb studs. So I'm hoping that I kind of influenced adding a thumb stud. I believe, and somebody might be able to correct me, but other than some tie-offs, I believe I was one of the very first people to make a production thumb tab to go on to the Free series. And then all of the their other reply here from KD is all of the implements and loadout you see on the ARC was essentially figured out years ago, barring the specialty knife steel. And so I'm willing to bet that a lot of these pieces were basically in development for a long time, trying to get that absolute perfect fit. I can appreciate that because when I make my holsters, just as an example, I make prototypes upon prototypes upon prototypes and test and fit and try to get everything perfect. That's one reason why my holster's not out yet, is that until I have every single aspect of it physically tested, I don't like to release it. And it looks like Leatherman's trying to do the same thing, barring any particular quality control issues. Next question that was, again, I'm going to put my questions at the beginning. Is the inclusion of the bit driver in the ARC something you wanted earlier in the Free series? And they put, yes, that is correct. All of the Free series prototypes had the bit drivers. So that means that Leatherman wanted to have this type of feature all the way from the beginning of the Free series. So probably a combination of getting that part manufactured, getting it perfected. There is also, they did mention in the AMA that part of the reason why the Free series had a dedicated flathead and a dedicated Phillips was that most users in their research studies only end up using basically either a flathead or Phillips, of course the most common type of bits. I work with electronics and different assemblies, basically that end up using Torx more often than I end up using the actual Phillips. And so that's one reason I designed my bit driver, is that I needed to be able to have all the different bits available. And on the back of my holsters, you can see I've used every one of these bits on the back here. And I basically will swap out, if there's one I'm not using and one I need, I'll go ahead and swap it out and then just carry the ones I use the most on the back side here. The 40th anniversary tool featured the spring-loaded adjustable pliers. Why does the ARC not have these features? And the reply was that some of the garage features are expensive and difficult for mass manufacturing. They also talk about the fact that that the adjustable fit here is weaker than the solid rivet that is featured on the ARC. And I could see that, obviously. More material is going to be stronger. This actually kind of rides, to me, a little bit easier. The other thing is that if you look at Texas Tool Crib's video on the garage number 5, there's a video where he takes apart the pliers, and that spring is very hard wound in there, and that requires milling of these both surfaces in order to have that mating finish. Plus you got these other 2 components, so you have at least 3 components added to your bill of materials, along with more milling. So I'm sure it was just simply an expense issue. Next question is from Al, the Science Pal. Are there any downsides to the Chicago screw plier pivot other than accidental loosing? Maybe a better way to phrase the question is, what are the pros and cons of that design versus the riveted pivot from a design manufacturing perspective? And KD actually replied talking about Chicago screws holding the scales together. And then Matt replied with the original question, which was talking about the pivot. So the reply was, we have issues achieving targeted torque ranges for implements when riveting. So I think that means that is why they use Chicago screws to hold together the Free Series. Also, the addition, it makes it more serviceable for their service department. Obviously, it also makes it so that we can modify and customize the tools to our heart. And then Matt replied with basically the short answer is strength, talking about that center rivet. This is my own particular question, which I talked about it a little bit earlier. Are all the black features on the ARC DLC coded or just the blade? Matt replied that they're both DLC, but KD replied that technically only the blade is DLC and the handles are PVD. Here's the reality. PVD is still an incredibly good, solid finish. They're both going to be, because it's black, they're both going to be a carbon coating. I just think the end result maybe is a slight difference in hardness. This is my question here. I have drilled into and tried to tap the scales on a Mr. Crunch with great difficulty. Do you harden the metal on your scales? And the reply from KD is that yes, every component made of 420 steel needs to be heat treated to maximize corrosion resistance and meet internal targets for strength. Matt also replies with yep. So that means that basically every tool and the scales, everything made of 420 steel is hardened. And I can tell you that I basically went through multiple diamond bits trying to basically add this pocket clip to a Mr. Crunch. And so, yeah, since everything's hardened on here, that might be part of the reason why Leatherman tools last so long compared to something that might be using a more mild steel. This question I found quite funny. Why was the package opener excluded from the ARC? Talking about the package opener that is on the garage number 5 with the sharpened edge. And the reply from Matt here is funny. There's a big Magnacut package opener. There's a awl-shaped package opener. And there's a can opener shaped package opener. And scissors. So talking about basically you have sharpened blades that are 420 steel or Magnacut that you can use for opening packages. You don't necessarily need a dedicated one. Like I said, I've started to use the scraper as a package opener. Works quite well in that regard. Next question I found on the AMA from Black and Pies. Are there plans to upgrade the standard steel other than 420HC in the future? What? And then his next part of the question was, what is the steel and hardness of the flat bits? Matt replies, hot take, 420 is pretty awesome. I know it's old news for the internet, but we're over here smashing, corroding, and cycling tools every day. It's a pretty good balance of properties to be abused for the price point. Problem with the internet is, of course, if there's something new and flashy like Magnacut, or there's some particular alloy of steel that somebody feels is superior in one regard or another, somehow they feel like every tool needs to have that, when the reality is that not every single implement needs to have the absolute world's best Magnacut steel for every single piece. He replied that the flat bits are S7. He does not remember that hardness off the top of his head. So that's talking about the hardness of the actual flat bits. I've been very happy with them. They do wear down, like I said. Flat bits are consumable, but they've actually lasted longer than a lot of bits that I get for, say, drills and things like that. So I've been actually very happy with them. And then KD replies, in regards to talking about 420 steel, find us a stampable super steel with great corrosion resistance and formability, and we'll get right on that. Stampable, I think, means so that they can just punch these tools out. The premium blades are laser cut and machined to final form, and that increases their cost. So that means that they're actually laser cutting the blank for the tool, and then, of course, obviously having to grind out all the rest of the features. And then where these implements would be basically punch cut using a much less expensive process, and then adding off grinding in the sharp edges. He also replies that the flat bits are S2 tool steel. He's not sure if they published the hardness value. Next question is from Learjet Pilot. The first part we've already covered. Second part of his question was, what made the decision to replace the serrated blade with the full-size file? Reply there was, that was feedback from a few hundred people. The tool set on the ARC will not be perfect for everybody, but is what the majority of people will appreciate. So far, the people I've seen that are complaining about not having the serrated blade instead of either the file or the saw, those people say they never use the saw, that they would use the serrated blade. Should say that I don't use the saw all that often. But I also have not necessarily found a need for a serrated blade. I know there's plenty of people, specifically who work with like climbing rope and things like that, that the serrated blade cuts rope easier or cleaner. So for me, it's not an issue. I probably would have been in the majority group here that they queried. Next question is from Daryl Gulich. What do you all carry personally for your EDC? I found this to be a nice, interesting question, or actually interesting responses. Matt carries an ARC P2 type thing, but mainly the Bruiser, which is a bottle opener. So he's probably carrying an ARC P2 simply, or an ARC version of the P2 simply because it's a little thinner. Maybe Matt doesn't need the file or the saw, and so those would be the things that you would kind of eliminate and still have the free P2 scales. I have already seen some people who have taken parts from the free P2 and made a thinner version of the ARC on Reddit. KD, he carries a modified version of the current platforms or prototypes, but his main EDC is an ARC P2, same as Matt. And then Adam replied with the ARC with some experimental features. So that means that the guys who designed this are the ones who are carrying it. And that kind of says something because, one, obviously, they're obviously proud of it. But these guys, I'm sure, get involved with the designs of some of the other Leatherman tools. But that means that they've put in the effort to try to make this the best that they can. But it's kind of interesting that they have them all a little bit modified. I'd be interested to see if Leatherman will start allowing customers to do more modifications and personalizations to their tools without voiding the warranty. Maybe making the warranty specific to implements and not the entire tool. Because I've obviously modified my Garage number 5 and I've heavily modified my Freebie 4. I'm not sending those in for warranty. 99% of the time I find the warranty is for just the stuff where you happen to get a bad batch right off the bat. So always inspect your tool when you receive it before you start modifying it. Make sure everything works for you. This one's perfect. I have no reason to believe that any part of it's going to break on me. A couple things we can go ahead and do is show that we'll go ahead and get ahead and take the Torx T6, and we're going to move the pocket clip to the other side of the tool here. I was going to use my garage number 5, but I got the nice 711L. And I have, I don't think the pocket clip screws have thread locker on them. Just be aware that the Chicago screws do have thread locker on them. And if you're not familiar with the 711L, it is an incredible little ratchet driver. It works really well because you can kind of just run the ratchet like this. These do actually have thread locker, I lied. So if I get in real close on him, there is thread locker on those screws. It's blue in color, and if it's Loctite brand thread locker, that means it's a either low strength or medium, could be a medium strength thread locker. So with the pocket clip removed, you can actually take a free P4 holster and dock the Leatherman ARC in there. Like I said, it just basically moves past the thumb screw, and it'll actually dock in multiple orientations. It won't dock with the thumb tab though towards the back. It kind of just grinds back there. Like I said, this is just if you happen to have my free P4 holster already, you can use that. If you happen to have my garage number 5 holster already, the ARC fits in there with a little bit, just basically it's a little bit looser around the blade. I have found that it doesn't hold in nearly as tight. Like I can shake it out compared to the garage number 5, which has a slightly tighter fit. However, it is a very tight fit with my free P4 holster, so I'm not sure if the spring tension on this is slightly different from the garage number 5, or if it's just the pivot strength or something like that that's different. In either case, I will be very soon releasing a new holster. It will come in the same options as the garage number 5 holster. That means that by the default option is this configuration here, which has bit holders on the back. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bit holders on the back, up to fit 4 bit holders on the side, or you can hold two bits here, or the Volty bit or the Volty Switch will fit the ARC holster. Just know that the Volty Switch does not fit the garage number 5. There's an extra cutout I have to add. And then a dedicated spot for the 711L. And then on the other side, you can choose to either have more bits, or the ratchet driver, or the bit extender holder on this particular side. And then this comes off. I have actually, this has a nice kind of detent when you first get it. It'll loosen up a little bit over time, so one thing I do recommend is gluing a magnet into here. That's just a 1/8 inch diameter by 1/4 inch long magnet that you can just get off Amazon. And you'll want to make sure that it's oriented properly so it retains your tool, but that allows this to kind of snap in a little bit better. Otherwise, it's kind of impossible to add I have a detent that grabs these rings, but simply just over time, it's impossible to have that last forever. As far as the actual bits, popping them out, I have an improved version of the grips compared to my free series, where they have this little cut down the middle that allows these to pop out with fingers. And I know I'm not demonstrating it properly, but I'm kind of pushing on one of the sharp ones. There we go. So you can just simply pop these out and they snap back into place. Then I sell this with multiple belt clip options, along with, this is the BDU option. And once I release the full holster, I'll probably have another video dedicated just to the holster. And I also sell, I don't have my prototype of it here, but I'm going to sell a single bit holder that I call the Banacle Bit Holder that allows you to replace the belt clip so you can keep your favorite bit on the tool. And you can have up to 2 of those because you can put one on either side. Granted, the one on the back won't be compatible with the holster. I hope to release my holster within the next week. Like I said, I prototype these and tweak them and try to get that absolute perfect fit. Go ahead and put in comments on what you want for the holster design. I'll probably have the design done this weekend and start working on prototypes. but I'm always open to feedback. Alright, I think that's enough rambling on the Leatherman ARC. Let me know what you think about the ARC itself, or my holster, or what you want to see in the future of the free series. Maybe there's something in here that you would find more perfect. Alright, thanks for watching.